Other interesting political news, you have California wanting to get rid of homework, tests, and more, all in the name of equity. This is brought to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, in which she says, quote, Gavin Newsom's California is planning on implementing a, quote, new grading equity program at San Francisco, SF Public Schools. The program will eliminate homework, eliminate weekly tests, allow for late assignment hand-ins, allow students to skip class without affecting their grade, allow getting 80% an A, allow students to pass with a grade as low as 21. Rest in peace, education system in California, which, yeah. But it's for equity, so it's, it's good intentions, they say. Although the conspiracy theorist in me, or the pessimist in me, says they're doing this just to keep people as dumb as possible so they're easy to control. All those things they're getting rid of are vital parts of becoming an adult. I mean, in the real world, you get homework, aka assignments by your boss. You get there's a lot of pass-fail tests in corporate America. In terms of allowing for the late handed of assignments, some people will get fired for not turning in your work in on time. In real corporate America, in real world, not public system, because, public system is, well, not really an accountability there, but in the real world, we have to contribute to society. You actually have to hand in shit on time, pardon the French. I mean, I know people have lost their jobs because they consistently handed in work assignments late, or they were consistently late to exceed the expectations of their customers. Again, so allowing students to hand in work late is terrible. I always tell people half the battle of life is just showing up on time. It's especially true in some sales organizations when, I was going to say, so many of them should just be fired because they never actually show up. But again, I think that's true for a lot of things in life, including corporate America, but just showing up 10 minutes early to things in life, you'll just be so much better than the competition. Leaps and bounds these days because you'll stand out so much. California is saying, you just skip class. You can hand in that assignment late. Now they're saying you could skip class too, which is a stark contrast to, Kamala Harris, where she would probably arrest parents if the student skipped class or was late. So talk about doing a 180. Now they're also making 80% an A. No, that is a B. Barely a B. Literally lowering the bar. That's what California does. Now, and also giving it an unfair competitive advantage to other, college and institutions who might not realize California is now manipulating their grades at this school to make the kids look smarter. Spoiler, they're not. It's going to hurt them long term. And now they can pass students with grades as low as 21%, apparently. 21? This is why we have adults in America that can't read. Because these useless public schools just keep pushing them around. I love how people say teachers aren't paid enough. Yeah. I would argue most of them are paid too much. You look at places like Detroit where they spend the most per student in terms of the education system there, yet they have the lowest test scores. Illinois, as I purposely mispronounced it as a slight to the state, they had over 18 counties in which the schools, they had kids in high school that couldn't read. And yet they too, I think they're in terms of the spending per student, it's one of the highest in the United States. I think it's top 5 in Illinois. And this is all just to make the kids feel good? It's for their equity program? You're quite literally hurting them long term. You're stealing away their opportunity to improve themselves, to get better in life. This is one of the most terrible things you can do. And I was going to say, God, someday I hope to have a privilege of having children of my own and family. This is reason number 1,958,735,003 to not have your kids in a public school. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm also skeptical a lot of private schools, which a lot of them are also corrupt and bad. I would argue a lesser amount or lesser percentage. But yeah, for the love of God, if you have a resource allocation to do it, I would just homeschool your kids. Not just for the woke ideology and, teaching kids that have nothing to do with the actual core curriculum, but also they're actively making your kids dumber. Also, ever since the Department of Education was founded, the test scores for kids get lower and lower and lower. It's so asinine that California would do this. Now, even crazier, he'll probably get reelected time and time again. They seem to keep reelecting this guy. And again, you get what you vote for. Now, maybe because we're just so used to California shooting themselves in the foot, this did not go as far as I thought it should. Because again, this is terrible implications for the students there. It's only got about 364,000 views and 8.6 thousand likes. And here you can see Gavin Newsom looking as slimy as usual. Although I'm sure some would say he's more attractive than I. Understandable. Low bar, though. And one of the top comments comes from their TikTok, where she actually links a article to the source, which is thevoices.org, getting 513 likes. Now, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to Paul Zazupa, saying, quote, "This is so ridiculous. Prepare for California students to get even dumber," getting 186 likes. The Gas Stove says, quote, "This should be a national..." The Gas Stove is probably my favorite, most recent profile to become more and more popular, because every day he's just a contrarian. Now, he says, quote, "This should be a national model when Newsom becomes president." Yeah, the gay pride flag emoji, which many would argue is probably just the flag of California. I got 14 likes and 12 comments. Were they ratioed? They weren't. Moon says, "Someone called the gas company. You clearly have a leaky valve somewhere," getting 2 likes. Which, they weren't ratioed. I was surprised. Janita Broderick says, quote, "California is one big mess. Pray for the kids," getting 718 likes, which, yeah, I love debating my friends when it comes to, well, mostly business, also some philosophical questions, but I always defy them. I ask them, can you name one business that has moved to California in the past 48 months? I could list 148 businesses that have left, not off the top of my head, but I have a list, thanks to, searches and articles. I mean, hundreds of businesses and millions of people are leaving California. Businesses are not moving their people. I mean, they keep driving people out. And I almost wonder, will they even care? Because the feds keep bailing them out when they are also fiscally irresponsible and in addition to driving people away. Thomas Lund says, quote, "Get your children out of California," getting 202 likes. I mean, this is also the state where the teachers will start to transition your kids and they don't legally need to tell the parents. They're actually allowed to hide that, which is horrifying to say the least. We also have, Stephen DeCrossi saying, quote, "California is rolling out, quote, grading equity in San Francisco United." And they say, quote, "No homework, no weekly test, late work accepted, skip class, still pass, 80% equals A, 21 equals passing grade. This isn't education, it's academic hospice care." Governor Newsom, let me ask you something. At what point did you decide the best way to lift children up was to stop asking anything of them? You're not closing the achievement gap, you're just lowering the ceiling until everyone's crawling. No homework, no test, no accountability, and you dare call it equity? If you ran a bakery the way you run the school system, you'd all be dying of hunger, because this isn't competition, it's surrender. It's not compassion, it's surrender. And if you really love those children, you demand even more of them, not less of them. And not less of yourself, getting 57 likes and, yes, exceptional points. Now, this is not true in terms of, they say the highest poverty rate in the nation. I'm pretty sure it's Alabama. Not to throw Alabama under the bus there, but I don't think it's California. I mean, they are very much artificially propped up by big tech. Also interesting how their policies are so bad for business and people. Even a lot of the big tech companies are leaving. A lot of them are relocating to the great state, or some might argue the great country of Texas. Now, granted, the biggest companies that make basically print money for a living, the Google, the Facebook, I mean, they're still very much headquartered in California. So that obviously artificially, that makes the wages per person so much more than other states. Now, this meme of Gavin Newsom does claim that they have the highest poverty rate in the nation. I don't believe that. Now, they say that they have the highest gas tax in the nation. That's actually not true either. They have the highest gas prices in the U.S. Interestingly enough, the highest gas tax in the United States, weirdly enough, is Pennsylvania, which I would never have guessed. I just did an article a couple years ago, and I was interested to see that's still the case. Or I did an article in high school about gas taxation, which is taxed on a federal and a state level. But yeah, California is, I believe, the second highest gas tax rate. However, it's the most expensive gas because they only allow, I believe, 2 or 3 companies to actually refine the gas to the California standards, which they have their own special standardization for emissions for the actual fuel there. So again, it's the most expensive gas in the U.S., but it's not technically the highest tax rate, just to throw that out there. They have the highest tax income state. Well, that is true. And they have a record homelessness in California. Yes, those parts are true as well. And this did get 126 likes. Now, interestingly enough, you do have someone who agreed with the homework part. Diaglo Marine says, "The only part I agree with is no homework. I always found the concept kind of redundant, and it doesn't actually help students. It just takes more time away from them that could be dedicated to studying and enjoying their youth. Most school systems in other development countries do not require homework." Got 30 likes. Went up like a stock price. Well, good stock price. I would actually, I don't know. It's one of those things where no kid likes doing homework because usually the stuff you study is crap. But every once in a while, you get a good teacher where they actually find a subject matter that you appreciate, and I would argue you learn more effectively because of that. But it's an instance where, as much as no one likes homework, I think it is important. In the real world, you get, I mean, especially if you're salaried, you're not hourly, you get a lot of homework. You get a lot of work tasks that have to be completed. I mean, let me know in the comments, maybe not a popular opinion, but I do think you need to have homework as a child to be successful. You also have Horescence saying, quote, his kids are in a private school, so it doesn't affect him. Getting 173 likes. 95 likes. True. Kyle Becker says, equity is a communist plot to destroy America. Prove me wrong. Getting 43 likes. Joe Pags Pellegrino says, quote, this is a plan to ensure Californians are not educated so that they'll be subjects of government forever. That's always their goal, full government control. Getting 236, 237, 238 likes, well, including one for myself. You also have IO saying, fact check, Governor Newsom has no involvement with this proposal plan? Really? Now, Just Visiting says, the governor has no involvement with the proposed radical massive changes of the education system in the state. What are you claiming? Chris Bacon says, fact check, you can't read. Look at the legislation headline. Yeah. You also have Dr. Pilligan saying, quote, the plan to help certain demographics by assisting them to be less educated, less motivated, and less intelligent isn't working. 69 likes. So yeah, I think this is definitely going to hurt California, especially in the long term. And as if you need yet another reason not to have your kid go to public school. Yes, this is yet another. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Again, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.